We kick it off here, though, in hour number one with legendary Clemson SID Tim Bourret on the show on a Thursday afternoon. Tim, hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be a part of our afternoon. And it's been a busier schedule than usual, I would say, for you. As I heard you on the call of Clemson's game against Virginia, doing the play-by-play with Jim Davis instead of the standard color commentary. Give us some insight into that move. When's the last time you called play-by-play, Tim?
Well, I do that every 14 years, whether I like it or not. I actually did the Maryland game in March of 2008 at Maryland. A great game. Clemson won 73-70 on a Terrence Oglesby three-pointer late in the game. The Tigers had overcome a large deficit, and that win really clinched an NCAA bid, the first one in the Oliver Purnell era. So I got to do that game when, unfortunately, Pete Yannity's father had passed away that week, and so I pinch hit on that, and Philip Sykes did the color with me.
Okay, so I've always been intrigued by it. I've never had to do it, and obviously it is a craft that is incredibly difficult in my estimation. How hard is it to shift from being the color analyst who sort of fills in the story versus, somebody swings the ball over here, man? I mean, it's a lot of work, it seems like.
Yeah, especially since I didn't know I was doing the play-by-play until shortly before the game. So, of course, you sit next to the play-by-play guy, and so you have a little bit of an appreciation for his job and what he's doing. But yeah, I did have to catch myself at some point of the game doing play-by-play in color, and needed to tell, because obviously I had prepared as the color announcer, so I had a lot of tidbits or stats on people that usually I would do as the color commentator that I worked into the broadcast. But then when I did that, I got behind on what was going on the court. And so I think I corrected that in about the second 10 minutes of the game, because, you don't want to be talking about some note or story while two other field goals are scored on the court. You haven't told the audience what in the world happened. So, but I think I did okay. I was fortunate that we had just played Virginia, so I was familiar with the Virginia players. So I didn't have to do that a little bit extra, studying or memorizing the numbers, or you obviously have to have a familiarity when when they pass the ball around the perimeter. It happens pretty quickly. So you got to try to keep up with who's got the ball.
I thought you were phenomenal, because when I'll be honest, I didn't know you had to do it, and I turned it on, and I was like, holy cow, Tim Bourret's doing the play-by-play. And I'm like, I don't know when the last time he's done this. Let me hear how this goes. And you were spectacular. And then, of course, Jim Davis was great there beside you. And, his knowledge of the game, being the former Clemson women's head coach, certainly was doing a jam-up job. But I got to tell you, I thought you guys were spot on. It was very, very enjoyable.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, from that standpoint, the game, let's get to it. So Clemson, ironically, wins at Virginia a couple of weeks ago, or 10 days ago, or whatever it was now. I hadn't really counted them up on my fingers and toes, but I know that was a great win. And then this loss, I mean, you had this competitive game coming down the stretch. The thing that frustrated me the most, Tim, was the free throw shooting discrepancy, and not so much in the numbers, because Virginia's getting fouled late, but, Clemson shooting 62.5%, I think was the number, from the free throw line. I mean, that is such an Achilles heel, because that changes, and has been for a long time, that changes the way you can play the final 3-4 minutes of the ball game.
Yeah, you're 100% right. For whatever reason, Virginia's free throw percentage defense was really good against Clemson this year. When we won the game in Charlottesville, we only shot 3 of 8 from the foul line, and we were 10-16 in this game. But it was a terrific game. I mean, it was really the last 5 minutes. We were 2 for our last 11 from the field. Really, it was virtually a tie game or 1-point game. Going into the last 5 minutes of the game, and then we did a cold streak. And Virginia really And I obviously got that impression from talking to Coach afterwards, and he said in his press conference, Virginia played great. It wasn't like we played lousy. I mean, we shot 46%. We made 45% of our threes. We had 17 assists and I think only 9 turnovers. I mean, now we were beaten on the board by about 5. But most nights when you have those stats, you're gonna win. But Virginia kind of, it's finally the last 2 games kind of played up to the way Virginia can play. They shot over 50% when they won at Syracuse. So I don't know. You're going to have all kinds of ups and downs, I think, from a lot of teams in the ACC. They looked horrible against us. They went 11 minutes without a field goal, and now they come the game up in Charlottesville, and now the last 2 games they've played terrific. It'll be real interesting to see what they do against North Carolina this weekend.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Again, legendary Clemson SID Tim Bourret hanging out with us here today as he does every Thursday afternoon. And Tim, just taking a look not only at the Clemson basketball team, but now the Clemson football team and the changes that took place this week, obviously with Todd Bates going out to Oklahoma to join Brent Venable's staff. I know that when the first move to hire Wes Goodwin was made, Dabo Swinney said, hey, look, that was something we knew in an instant. How big of a shock do you think it was, not just to Coach Swinney, but to the entire staff to see Coach Bates leave after the Iowa State game to go out and join Brent Venables?
Well, I was not on the inside on all that transpired there, but obviously what we know on the outside is that Todd was going to get a good bump in pay to $515,000, was going to be assistant head coach. Now he wasn't going to be a co-coordinator. But assistant head coach seems like a pretty good, title. But then obviously after the last game, things changed, whether that was in the works beforehand. And they just held everything off until after recruiting. I really don't know. But it appears from all that you read that Nick Eason is going to come back to Clemson and replace Todd, and I think that's going to be a home run hire. You got a combination of a guy who's a Clemson guy, was a great leader here, 2-time captain. Really, I tell people he's kind of was Christian Wilkins before Christian Wilkins. He didn't have the acclaim as a player, but he was first team All ACC. He was not an All American like Christian was, but graduated. He got 2 degrees in his 5 years here, just like Christian did. He was. They picked a top 6 student athletes in community service across the entire athletic department when he was here, and Bill DeAndre was running Vickery, and Nick was one of those 6. All 5 years he was here, the only person to win that honor 5 consecutive years. And now, he's got a lot of experience as a professional coach, and was at Auburn this past year. From what we understand, I mean, Auburn brought in 4 new defensive linemen. It looks like he did pretty well in recruiting. So Todd did a great job. We wish him well with Coach Venables, but I think we got a great person to replace him.
Yeah, you look at what Nick did, and obviously I was there at Clemson at the same time and knew Nick. I think was he the first football player to graduate in 2 years? Is that right?
3 years.
3 years.
He got his undergrad in 3 years, but then he got his master's before he finished out his eligibility. So I think he was the first prominent player, scholarship guy, to get 2 degrees over his, playing career. But he was kind of a model student athlete when he was here, very outgoing, and a real team leader.
Which fits right into what Dabo Swinney is trying to build with that foundation at Clemson. So we will indeed see once that news finally comes out official from Clemson, Nick Eason, the former Clemson Tiger defensive lineman, looks like he'll be joining Dabo Swinney's staff.
How about that if you put that a typo on your website, said Nick Saban coming to Clemson to be defensive line coach?
Yeah, who says Dabo Swinney doesn't go out and get good coaches?
That's right.
So I will say this too, right? Like of the 10 staffers now, if this does indeed happen and go through, half of them will be former Clemson Tiger football players.
Yeah, I guess so. Now, of course, Nick never played for Dabo. Nick's last year was the year before Dabo came. But yeah, I guess of course, we did lose one, and Tony Elliott moving on to Virginia.
Yeah, you'd have Nick and Tyler Grisham and Brandon Streeter and who am I missing?
CJ and Austin.
Yeah, CJ and Austin. There you go. Well, so I mean, that's half of the 10 coordinators, all former Tigers. So that foundation still very much built in the orange and white of the Clemson Tiger football program. Now, looking down the line a little bit, Tim, obviously the offseason is looming and the expectations are through the roof. We've got the national championship game coming up next Monday, and you've got one of your rivals, Georgia, playing for that championship. Also, Alabama, who's sort of been your nemesis and your real opponent at the top of college football in recent years. Significance of this game, just in terms of the future maybe of Clemson's program, or does it matter at all? And what I mean by that is, I think most people would say if Alabama wins another title, it's just an Alabama title. If Georgia wins one, they haven't won one since 1980, and now all of a sudden there will be that a little bit extra momentum maybe in Athens, if you will. Do you think one way or the other this championship game is more important to Clemson who wins? I know the fans will want to know that.
Well, from a fan standpoint, the fans I'm sure will be rooting for Alabama because there's a lot more Georgia people in this area that they probably work with and see on a daily basis, almost like the rivalry with South Carolina. Now, as far as the impact on the program, you could say impact on the program, but let's be honest. What we're talking about, what would be the impact on our recruiting if Georgia wins the national championship? Well, they're already having the number 1 and number 2 classes in the country the last 4 years. So, I don't know that there'd be that big of a change. Surely we do recruit against. But, we probably recruit as much against Alabama as much as we do against Georgia, and they've won whatever they've won, 5 of the last 8 or 10 or whatever it is.
It's ridiculous.
National championships, yes. But I will say this: there is history. There's a history to look back at. When Georgia won the national championship in 1980, it so damaged the Clemson program that we won the national championship the very next year, and we finished 5th in the country in winning percentage for the entire decade of the 1980s, ahead of Georgia, who was a very, very good program. So, if you look at history, them winning did not really affect us.
That's a fantastic. And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because I think that'll ease a little. That'll ease some of the tension for Clemson Tiger fans that are worried about the Bulldogs maybe pulling off a national championship victory on Monday night. Again, follow Tim Bourret on Twitter at Tim Bourret. Fantastic follow, not only to keep up with Clemson and cool stats and numbers from there, but also from the NFL. And Tim, you've been tweeting a good bit about Hunter Renfrow and what a story he's become very early in his career there with the Las Vegas Raiders. Just a phenomenal season, over 1,000 yards this past year. One of 3 Clemson wideouts in the league with over 1,000 yards receiving.
Yeah, right now there's only 20 players in the NFL who've had 1,000 yards, and 3 of them are Clemson guys, and very close too. So Higgins has 1,091, Mike Williams has 1,027, and Renfrow has 1,025. But I of course I was SID when. Well, all 3 of them actually were in school, but especially Renfrow and Williams that set up all their interviews until the 2018 season when I retired. But so got to know them very well, and just so happy for Hunter. He's just such a down to earth guy. It's just been thrilling for me to watch him every week and to see kind of what Hunter's going to do next. And we saw this past weekend he basically had the winning play. I still think it was that he wasn't touched, and it would have been a touchdown, but it was better off for the Raiders the way it ended up, because this way the Colts never got the ball back with an attempt to try to score at the other end. So, but yeah, 99 catches for 1,025 yards and 7 touchdowns for Hunter Renfrow, who when you go back on YouTube and look at the August 2015 video of when he was taken off of being a walk-on and giving a scholarship, and 6 years later he's doing what he's doing in the NFL, is just amazing.
It really is. It's one of the great stories, I think, in not just Clemson, but certainly in college football. I mean, that's the thing that everybody loves. Like that's a Disney movie type thing. I mean, that's how it feels. Tim, so good to catch up with you again. Listen, I thought you were phenomenal in the play-by-play. If I had not known that you didn't do that for a living, I would have thought, well, he's spitting right. Yeah, he must do this for a living. I mean, it was awesome. You did great.
Well, thanks. It was fun to have the opportunity to do it, but and I am doing Saturday's game too. Don has COVID and won't be back until next week, so I will be doing the NC State game with Jim Davis too. But I will gladly hand the play-by-play reins back to Don next week. I was exhausted when that game was over.
Oh, I bet you. I watched the video
to do play-by-play.
Yeah, Tony Castricone, who was there at Clemson for a while before going to Washington, posted a video one day on his Facebook page, and he had his camera set up watching, and I'm watching him look at the screen, look at the game, look down at his paper, and I'm going, there's no way. I'd be drained. So I see when you said you did it every 14 years, I was going to say, well, we look forward to your call in 2036.
I'll be 80.
All right, Tim, take care of yourself.
I may still be doing color at 80, but I don't think I'll be doing it to play-by-play.
Hey, Dick Vitale wants to do it at 100, so there you go.
Yeah,
go
right.
get him. Take care, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Legendary Clemson SIT Tim Bourret. He'll be 80. Making the call. Woo.